Chair recognizes delegate at mic 3.
Muchísimas gracias. Mi nombre es Jorge Ramírez. Soy hijo de inmigrantes de Rubén de Mexico y Sara de Mexico. My name is Jorge Ramirez and I'm president of the Chicago Federation of Labor. I rise in support of this resolution. In Chicago, we have actively pushed for policies to ensure that all working people feel safe and welcome in our city, and know that our police and our public institutions are there to protect and serve them, not to deport them. In the face of blatant attempts to scapegoat, criminalize, disempower immigrants, working people must refuse to be divided. That means we must insist on due process and real protections on the job for all workers, regardless of immigration status. Community trust policies make it harder for abusive employers to use the threat of deportation to keep workers from speaking up about unsafe working conditions or unpaid wages. And that helps lift wage standards and working conditions for all working people. However, this administration may try to spin it. Attacks on the cities and enact sensible communication. Our community trust policies do not protect workers. Like so many hostile policies, these attacks are another tool to keep workers powerless and poor. Whatever they may do to threaten us, Chicagoans will stand up for each other and work together to build the sort of community that reflects our values. I urge you to support this resolution that makes clear that working people will stand united. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ray. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 1.
Good afternoon. I'm Ken Rigmaiden, General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. But first, I want you to know that I became General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades because I completed an apprenticeship, followed a pathway based on opportunity. I want you to remember that. I'm a floor covering installer from the state of California. Woohoo. On May 4th of this year, our brothers walked on a job site in Northern California, and my brother was torn from his family and from his community. Our solidarity is at stake. Our enemies are pitting us against one another, and we can't let that stand. These efforts stifle our power, our organizing campaigns, and our ability to collectively bargain for all working people and for the common good. Attacks on immigrants are attacks on us all. In the construction industry, we pride ourselves in our workforce development program that has proven to be successful for generations through that apprenticeship model. However, today, millions of undocumented workers already in the workforce don't have access to this system because of their immigration status. Now, we are faced with adding more than 1.2 million workers being shut out through the potential repeal of DACA and TPS. We need to push back on all the attacks on immigrants and refugees. Enforcement only bills like the National E-Verify bill that is being marked up today in the House push our current and future members back into the shadows and into an underground economy. For us, that looks like employers misclassifying workers, continuous wage theft, and dangerous working conditions. We need immigration policies that will make it easier, not harder, for us to organize all immigrant workers and build power within our communities. There is the reality of this moment. 1.2 million people, DACA and TPS recipients who the government has vetted and given work permits. These men and women are in our ranks, and this administration wants to deport them. This administration and their corporate cronies want to deport them and replace them with more guest workers whose visas are tied to their employers. These workers face some of the most deplorable and exploitative working conditions. Just in the construction industry alone, 15,000 more guest worker visas were extended, all the while Trump still tweets about creating more jobs for Americans, and our labor movement gets more divided on this issue. Look, these are our brothers and sisters. We've invested a whole lot of time and resources to build these relationships with both local and national immigrant rights organizations. Invested tons of assets into making sure that those workers, those members in our union, got the proper training, both in skills and safety, to be an asset to our union, to our signatory employers, and to the United States of America. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears have been put into building this credibility. We have to choose either to walk along with them in this fight or be absent and undermine the trust. I choose to be with them. I choose for a couple of very simple reasons. A lot of folks talk about that we're all immigrants. Some of us came in on our own volition. Some of us came here under chains. However, I've decided that if I don't want to have anyone else be enslaved, if I don't want anyone to be baked in an oven, if I don't want anyone to be abused, then I gotta stand up. We all need to stand up and support this resolution.
Thank you, brother. Chair recognizes Delegate at mic 2.
Thank you. I'm Mike Williams, president of the Florida AFL-CIO, and I was really torn whether to get up and speak on this or not, but I feel compelled to after hearing other brothers and sisters. You know, back in the early 90s, I was a business manager of a construction local union, and I'd get a call from some of the guys on one of the construction jobs, and they'd say, you know, Mike, there's some folks out here on this job that I'm not sure they're speaking English, and as a matter of fact, their skin color may be a little darker than what ours are. I think you might need to come out here and take a look. So I'd get in the car and drive out to the job site, and word would get around that the business manager is coming on the job, and all those folks that I were called about would scatter. They'd just leave the job afraid that something was going to happen to be a liability for them. I thought I was doing a great thing. I thought it was the right thing to do. I felt good about it. I was out there taking care of my brother construction workers. Well, I have to say today that I'm ashamed of what I was doing, because what I've learned through the AFL-CIO, what I've learned from brothers and sisters around this country, rather than showing up on a job to run people off, I should have showed up on that job with my arms open and welcomed them into the workforce of this country to find out how we can stop those unscrupulous contractors from taking advantage of them every single day and undermining legitimate contractors that work our building trades men and women. So just wanted to share with you from a perspective of a personal note how becoming and developing relationships with brothers and sisters from all over this country and within the AFL-CIO has helped me grow and helped me to realize what it's really all about: brotherhood, sisterhood, and working families all over this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mike. Chair recognizes Delegate at mic 1.
Thank you, President. Josie Camacho, Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Alameda Labor Council and proud National Board Member of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance and CWA. So I stand here in full support of number 22 because what's going on in our nation is criminal. What's going on in our nation from number 5 is despicable. And what's going on is becoming a material force. It's not just rhetoric anymore. And I'm talking about the prejudices against immigrants, people of color, not just Asian Pacific American immigrants, not just Latino immigrants, but we also have black immigrants. People are being denied access to quality care. People are being denied access to a good education, affordable housing, and good sustainable jobs. That's why I love hearing all of the speakers talk about how important it is. Brother Regman, to see you stand up as a black man and say that you stand with immigrants is outstanding. To hear the other brother talk about some of his own prejudices and put it out there on the table is part of what this great AFL-CIO is about. We need to continue having those discussions, because I'll tell you the truth. As a short 5'1" woman of color, I've got to struggle 3 times as hard as everyone else. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I grew up with 9 brothers and sisters, so you see my point. It was a struggle. We ate. My father was a cook, but we were poor. And when my husband and I had our own children, we had to go and get a good job. We didn't know it was a union job. He said, I'm going to check out this trade. He became an electrician. I went to the city of Oakland. It was union. But when I see formerly incarcerated and returning residents as a result of mass incarceration, immigrants, poor people that are displaced, we cannot be a nation that tolerates that. And I know we won't, because we're going to stand up every single time number 45 gets out there. It's going to get us angry. It's going to give us inspiration to pick ourselves up that day, the next day, and more to come until we win. Thank you.
Thanks, sister. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 3.
Brother Trumpka, I'm Jim Dixon, a proud member of ASME and the president of Springfield and Central Illinois Trades and Labor Council. I rise in support of this resolution. I'm going to talk a little bit about immigrant families. On Saturday, November 13, 1909, nearly 500 men and boys went down into the Cherry Mine in northern Illinois. My 17-year-old immigrant grandfather, who had come to America from war-torn Czechoslovakia, was one of those miners. That mine caught fire, and shortly after noon, 259 men and boys died in that mine. Luckily for me, my grandfather came out of that mine with his shoelaces on fire. He later moved to Virden, Illinois, where he not only worked in area mines, but like many union members, he gave back to the community by coaching his kids and other kids in baseball teams. He had sons who became union members and gave back to their communities. His grandsons continue his legacy. My cousin was a president of the Ornamental Iron Workers in Chicago. I have another cousin who's a proud member of the IBEW. I have a brother who was in the IBEW. I have a brother who's a member of the American Federation of Teachers. Not only are we unionists, sisters and brothers, but we give back to our communities. One of us works to restore a cemetery that was abandoned. Another works with young kids, teaching them how to kayak. Another, following the death of his son, helped found Bereaved Parents of the USA, served as national president, and for 20 plus years with his wife, led a monthly support group for other parents who had experienced the death of a son or daughter. My grandfather's legacy is the same kind of legacy as today's immigrants. That's what they bring to America and America's future and the future of the labor movement. Not only do immigrants work to make America better, so will their children and grandchildren. I ask you to support this resolution. Thank you, sisters and brothers.
Thank you, brother. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 1.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Lynn Dodson, Secretary-Treasurer of the Washington State Labor Council, AFL-CIO. I ask your permission for our first Vice President, Emmanuel Flores, to address the Assembly.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, my name is Emmanuel Flores. I am here as an alternate with the Washington State Labor Council. My union affiliation is the IBEW Local 73 out of Spokane, Washington. I just wanted to give a little shape of my family history and what my family has been through with immigration enforcement. Back in the 1930s, as most people might know, I'm a millennial, so a lot of this I'm starting to learn, and I'm starting to hear the stories from my grandparents and my mom. But after the 1920 Depression, the 1930s hits, and they had Operation Wetback, and essentially what that was is they would go, and if you looked different, they would just pick you up, pack you in a train, and send you about 100 miles past the Mexican border. They would open the doors up, dump out the dead bodies, kick everyone else out, go back, fill her up. And one of the biggest issues that this affected with my family is there was towns they couldn't stop in. There was, they lived constantly in fear. It was harder to call for police or to try and get help because if you didn't carry, a driver's license wasn't good enough. If you didn't carry your birth certificate, which was a lot harder to get back then, you were gone. That was it. So this is kind of a repeat of history. I'm really glad to see brothers and sisters standing up for this, and I'm hoping that we can stop this before it happens again. So instead of si se puede, yes I can, si podemos, together we can do this. Si podemos, together we can make a change. Si podemos, together we can stop this from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. The question is on the adoption of Resolution 22. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Resolution 22 is adopted.